everyone, it's Melanie of Art Studio 320 and welcome to my very messy studio. I am down here before I start my project, and yes, we are doing a project this week, but for now, right now, you will see me in a very quick time lapse. I wish I could do it in real time that way because I really hate cleaning up large messes. I have to do this because it's too cold to work in the garage. November 1st, slam with cold weather. So it's not safe for my paint to be in the garage when it's this cold, so I'm just going to bring everything downstairs. I need to organize that. I just thought I'd take you on the journey. This week's project is a oversized nightstand. That's the only way I can describe it. It's very chunky, so I'm just going to take off the hardware because that's chunky and that's an easy fix. I'm going to try and slim it down by taking some of the extra wood off, and then I'm going to add legs. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment and press that red button. You can also follow me on Instagram, and you can find me on Etsy, where you will be able to purchase some of my past projects that I've done right here on my channel. All of those links will be in the description box below, along with all of the materials that I use this week. Stick around. This is a space where I have taught classes from children to adults, and hopefully again someday. I needed more shelves, so these baker shelves are the best. I had a lot of plastic up last winter, so that was nice to take that down. I'm using vinegar and water, as usual, to clean off the piece, and then a little Goo Gone because there was a sticker on there from Goodwill. I'm using my Bosch orbital sander here, and I'm starting with the 60 grit, and then I go to 120 and then a 220, so it's nice and smooth. This took a long time. The bottom of the piece in the front, there's a decorative piece of wood, and right here you can see it on the front, and in the next clip there, it's gone. I somehow forgot to film that. I'm cutting off the bottom here because I'm going to put legs on it, and look what I'm doing. I froze the frame because I am measuring in the wrong place. I almost cut into the piece, and I cut out some of the footage, but you can see I scored on the place that I measured in the wrong place. So I scored the piece to make it easier for the blade to go through. Now, you want to start your saw, your jigsaw, before you hit the wood, because if you hit the wood and then start the saw, you might have some problems. So start the saw before you get into the wood, and then just gradually guide it forward. This is not easy to do. The first time I did pretty well, and then I sanded it down, and then I did some sanding in between while I was flipping. This piece was unusually heavy. All right, so now I'm measuring again, and I measured and I measured and I measured. I cut some of this footage out, but I don't mess around when I measure, and yet it's painful to watch this because I did not cut this as well as I did the first time around. And part of it, I think, is because I have my piece on a cart with rollers, and it was rolling all over the place. You can see I keep having to move it, and I strained it out a little bit, but I cut a little bit too far in. But once I put legs on it, you couldn't even tell. using Universal Rust-Oleum. This is my favorite color. It's Champagne Mist, and you can see I don't like the color of that hardware. It's too chromy looking, it's too shiny, and I don't like it. It just looks fake yellow gold. The Champagne Mist is much nicer. It's kind of a brushed finish, and then I mixed it with Vintage Gold. So after I put on a layer of the Champagne Mist, I just lightly went around and added some Vintage Gold, and I think it looked pretty dang nice. And I had some drawer pulls that I wanted to match, and there it is. And both of those I matched to the little knobs that I put on the very top of the piece, and you'll see those in the end. I didn't do anything to those because I wanted these two sets to match the knobs. Hey everyone, it's Wednesday and I've made a decision, I think. I got this piece at Goodwill on Sunday and I started working on it on Monday until just this minute. Didn't know what I was gonna do. I sand down my pieces sometimes because when it's wood, I like the option of being able to stain it if I want. I want to show a lot of wood usually, unless something doesn't look good and then I can paint it. That's always a good option. This piece has a lot of wood. It's distressed. I'm not digging it too much, so that is one drawback to me leaving it raw. It could be, I don't know, I'm still deciding, I think. It sounds like I'm still thinking, right? Okay, let me tell you what I'm gonna use and then I'll get started and then we'll see where it goes, because if you've watched my videos before, I get halfway through and think, nope, this isn't what I want. I say this all the time. That's the process. That is the way it should be. The colors I'm going to use at this moment, I have two Melange 1 colors. I'm so far away. One is Apothocary Gray and the other is Tobacco Brown. This one is the wild card for me because I haven't used a color like this, but I am drawn to it. The drawers, I sanded just the top. I kept thinking while I was sanding it, it's sort of a lazy style. The corners, it's like they fell asleep when they were sanding it. It's rounded and it has that chunk feel like I was talking about before, and my goal was to eliminate the chunk. The drawers are more of the rounded, and so when I sanded it, I tried to minimize that as much as possible. I've chosen a stencil. I think I'm going to stencil the front of the drawers. I have a lot of repairs to do. I did a little bit of destruction on the underside of the top when I was trying to pull apart. There was a piece underneath here. Can you see that underneath there? And that was part of the chunk I wanted to get rid of. So I was using my putty knife, my painter's tool, and I was hitting it with the mallet, and I pulled off a bunch of wood. I hate when I do that. I hate when I do that. I hate when I do that. But there's a solution. I can repair it. No big deal. So I'm going to do that, and then I have some repairs to do on the drawers. So I'm revved to go. So let's go. There was one little piece that was just kind of hanging there, so I took that off, but the rest of it I just left because I was going to put my plastic Wood X over the top, the wood filler, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm also using it, of course, to repair the drawers a little bit, not everything, because it was a distressed piece. Okay, when you spend a lot of time alone, what can I say? I get a little restless. As I was saying, I did repair the drawers to some degree, but some of that I just left because it was a distressed piece and there was just too much to fix. Now, however, I did fix the distressed on the sides because I was going to paint that, so I didn't want that coming through. But the parts I stained, I pretty much left alone. Here is my paint. I'm using one by Melange, which is an all-in-one paint. It has primer, and the best part, it has top coat. And man, this color went on so nicely. I didn't have any problems with this. And the best part is when you get to the stain, it's very easy to get off. Now I decided to go back and tape this when I was doing it again because I had to sand, and because of the way it was made, when I was sanding right there, some of the spots that I hit with my paintbrush, there were spots where it was hitting the painted areas, especially on the drawer with the little 4 squares. So yeah, I went back and taped it up so I wouldn't do it again. It was a real pain to sand because I couldn't use my orbital sander. I had to do it by hand. I used a roller on most of the piece because it just gives a very nice finish. I will put the type of skins that I use for my roller in the description box. They are kind of furry, but they are absolutely perfect. I finally found a skin that I like. I'm making a custom stain for the piece, and I wanted it to be a little bit browner than I had made for the piece I did last week. I used cherry, and then I used an English chestnut, I believe it was called, and I just wanted to add a little bit more of the chestnut to make it a little bit browner. I didn't want it to be too red. I think it came out really nice. If you're going to mix your own stain, all I suggest is you find a little jar that you can put it in, and then just mix a little bit at a time and have a little piece of wood to test the stain on before you put it on your piece. That's it. As you can see, when I put the leg, or tried to put the leg on, it was in the way. So I've got my oscillating tool. I just measured it like that, and now I'm just gonna cut it down a little bit so that my leg will fit. So rare that the screws actually work with the hardware, and sure enough, these screws were too long, so my husband had some drywall screws that were shorter and they worked just fine. I also needed an extender. You can see it right here. It's like a long cigarette because I couldn't quite get in there. That is a handy tool. I've gotten in the habit of painting on the inside of where the drawers go. I think it's a good habit to get into. I have found that using a roller that is kind of tacky with paint, meaning it's sort of sticky, because you don't want it to be full of paint and oozing through your stencil. If you are using a stencil on a painted area, there is another trick to that, and you can find that in one of my, or a couple of my other videos, and I will put one of those at the end of this video. You'll notice that there is a little pinstripe on the sides of this piece, and I wanted to stain it, so I sanded it down and then I put the stain on. We are almost finished. I'm putting on the hardware, so that means we are almost done, except I still need to go back and wipe down the areas that I got stain on the painted areas. I'm using mineral spirits. It's called Green Envy. It's a new mineral spirit. It is supposed to be odor free, and it pretty much is, and it's supposed to be environmentally friendly, and it works very well. Now if you want to know more about using mineral spirits and wax, check out my video on mineral spirits versus wax. Don't forget to stay tuned for the final photos at the end. Well friends, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Man, this was a challenge to take something that was so big and chunky. It really stumped me there. Yesterday I was having some creative process issues. I think sometimes you just have to start working on it. As you go along, things start to take form. I did have to stop a lot and just kind of think it through, the colors I was going to use, what I was going to do, what was I going to stain, what wasn't I going to stain. And even then, as I went along, it became clear. Okay, this isn't going to work, so I'll do this. Okay, that looks better than this. You know, it's a process all the way to the end. And that's what makes this job so much fun and not a job. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We live it like this could be our final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. We come alive.
You can do it.